Hi, my name is Matt Pearson, and I am the director of the Makers Lab at Marin Country Day School. MCDS is an independent K-8 in Corte Madera, California, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. I direct a program called the Makers Lab, which includes bringing STEAM into the curriculum. Recently, I had a short adventure, or an exploration, with the tinkering sessions I do on campus. I blew up the norm and reconstructed a possible alternative, and then approached my supervising committee to ask permission. Permission to use students in my experiment. Permission to figure out how to engage more girls in STEAM during tinkering. It was awkward. It was awkward because this is my supervising committee, part of it anyways. And look, they're busy. Tinkering is their time and they decide what happens, or so they tell me daily. So let me share where they let me take them and where I ended up as a teacher. First, let's give you a little foundation, a little something to hold on to while we zig and zag on this adventure. The Makers Lab was introduced to MCDS to expand STEAM learning in the existing blend of traditional and progressive curriculum. The Makers Lab is both a physical space and a curriculum research and design department which works with teachers in grades K-8 to develop curriculum and assist with teaching. The Makers Lab also offers tinkering sessions to familiarize students with materials and tools so that they can gain knowledge and skill and then transfer this to future learnings, projects, etc. So that's the Makers Lab from 30,000 feet. Here's a quick bit on STEAM making and tinkering. Why STEAM? I use STEAM, or blending, in the Makers Lab for a variety of reasons. Mostly because the world does not operate in the silos that so many current academic institutions provide. Real-world challenges and opportunities require a broad application of knowledge and skills from many traditional disciplines. So, how does making and tinkering fit into STEAM? Well, to prepare students to meet challenges and opportunities yet to be defined, it's necessary to build learning experiences that are relevant, comprehensive, and engaging to the learner. A rising theory of how best to do this, to create useful and impactful science, tech, engineering, art, and math lessons, is by including making. Making includes many aspects of play combined with building. The exploration and play aspect of making is called tinkering, and that's what serves to connect making to STEAM. John Dewey asserted that learner-driven inquiry increases engagement and motivates students in their learning. This is also all over the literature. Whether tinkering is referred to as free building, the exploration stage of project-based learning, or design thinking, whatever its name, it's clear from the literature that tinkering has been a part of pedagogical approaches for decades, if not centuries. Tinkering is the exploring and asking questions and figuring out why, how, and often who types of questions surrounding some major inquiry. I've always had this kind of what makes it tick mindset. Tinkering is the beginning of finding answers and or teaching students how to find and qualify answers. To me, this is a must-have method and approach to both learning and teaching. So, back to the committee. The question I asked them was, how will STEAM-based projects affect girls' interest and engagement in Wait, hold on. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? That's important. I'm doing this because over the course of 18 months, I observed students and I surveyed about 18 after tinkering sessions. The survey contained Likert-style questions that you see here. The low numbers meaning not so good, don't want to do it. The high numbers meaning yes, want to do it. You can see the science and math questions were very, very low. Not many people, many girls were interested. So I dove into the literature to see what I could see, and it's quite prevalent that there are some challenges. One particular article from an educator named Elliott was that recent research indicates such lots of self-imposed gender-biased constraints, or perhaps hand-eye coordination ability, may originate as far back as toy selection by parents in early childhood and become exacerbated by parent gender bias and stereotypes. So in an effort to more fully engage females in tinkering, I started thinking about ways to address these particular self-imposed constraints. So, research. So, back to our adventure, the supervising committee. The Makers Lab offers tinkering during student recess, and attendance is optional. That's why these guys are my supervising committee. Well, sort of. The committee's bigger than this. Call this the fourth grade subcommittee. It's their choice to come to tinkering instead of recess. They were skeptical about my question. How will STEAM-based projects affect girls' interest and engagement in tinkering? So, I sort of asked them this question. It was more like, can we all do a structured activity to help Matt do an action research project for Matt's school? I was met with, we're busy. But then finally, yes, we'll help you. But of course, they immediately wanted to know, hey, what project? Well, to great enthusiasm, all right, to sort of okay enthusiasm, there was some enthusiasm. I continued to explain the project. My hidden agenda was, of course, how this might get the tinkering session students more involved in STEAM learning rather than only drawing and painting. Mind you, drawing and painting are important. A sealed jar terrarium. Yeah, I know, perplexed looks, kind of like yours. Well, to good enthusiasm, I continued to explain the project. My hidden agenda was, yes, there was more to this. I didn't share it with them at the time. The water cycle, all of the elements and the science and the juicy creation of a model. Making a model. Why do we model? We make models in science so that we can ask other questions, so that we can tweak data points, so that we can attempt to predict. So the making of a model, the making of a sealed jar terrarium, is an important aspect. It's an important skill. So we have a whole bunch of layers of rock, we have a bunch of plants, some wire mesh, and they started to build the science part. The cool thing about this is they had a palette to choose from, and they created, using bugs and plants and rocks and charcoal, a sealed jar terrarium, representing a model of a closed system. In our case, a global water cycle. They could also revise the model. They could revise the model and introduce a bigger isopod, 100 times bigger than that other creature that you saw a moment ago. So this sealed jar terrarium, a sealed jar terrarium, acted as the intervention. On to the making. The skeptics became enthralled. I'm talking about the students. They became scientists. They began to paint with a canvas of colors. The colors were of the plants. They poked and they prodded and they asked more questions. The strengths of this activity are many. They were fully excited, motivated, and curious. They were engaged. The engagement was huge. So, in order to make this intervention work, I had to have something before and after. If you have an intervention, you got to see, well, what's the consensus? How's it going so far right now? Then you intervene. Then you do the same interview, the same questions after, and you see, is there a difference? So I used a mixed method approach. I interviewed the fourth graders one-on-one, and I asked them a series of questions. And I asked them the same questions following the intervention. These sessions were audio taped and transcribed and annotated and code words and all sorts of careful annotations and explanations of the data. There was a lot of data. The findings. There were many findings. And after distilling the most salient finding from all of the students, I decided the big takeaway is best described with this dialogue from one of the student transcripts during the post-interview. Well, Matt, you see, I sort of want to do activities that the teacher sets up, unless I don't like them. Then I want to do what I want to do. Well, so you want veto power? What's that? Veto power? What? Veto power? Veto is what the president does to a new law and they don't like it. Sort of like the ultimate vote, what the president wants. Yep, veto power. So, with these findings and this notion of veto power, We have some nice quantitative data to go with the dialogue. We have some nice charts to go. But the dialogue's better, don't you think? Well, this isn't the chart. Having a hybrid structured activity in student-proposed project and tinkering sessions seems to be a method to jumpstart student learning and then springboard into a project they are passionate about. It is apparent at this nexus of structured activity and student-proposed project, the teacher has the potential to manage student expectations, explain constraints, and assist in student learning of knowledge and skill. This is also where teachers can insert desired learning outcomes while leveraging student interest and engagement to deepen the student learning. Tinkering ignites the creativity in all of us. When you allow it to burn a bit, teachers and students are rewarded. By setting the stage in and out of the classroom to foster creativity, allowing students to connect their interest and passion with hands-on tinkering and making, we end up with engaged and highly motivated student learning and a desire to be a part of a solution team, and all having fun. This is all in pursuit of preparing students to overcome the challenges of the 21st century. In tinkering, you need to have structure that students can spring off of. You need to have things to get them going, to start the engine, to get the juices flowing. But once the engine is started, you need to let it go its own path. You need to let go, and as it flies, you need to shepherd the learning. At the end of it all, I grew as a person, as a teacher, and most importantly, as a learner. My supervising committee is also my teaching committee. I learned so much from them. Thanks for listening.